Even during COVID-19, several thousand Jewish immigrants coming from Russia, Europe, North America, and Ethiopia have landed at Tel Aviv's David Ben Gurion Airport.
This is a very unusual and exciting season for us, that these are people that many of them, they were planning to come to Israel, say this summer, so they could get their kids in school in the fall. And then COVID hit. They had quit their job and then they're in limbo. We call them rescue flights to bring these Jews here who are really stuck and can't go forward.
For more than 30 years, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has helped more than 150,000 Jews to make Aliyah.
It is fulfillment of God's covenant promises to the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and it's fulfillment of the prophetic words from the prophets who were servants of those covenants and said, even though God is exiling you, He will come find you and bring you back. And so this is an exciting work that we believe has eternal value, in that it will be here back in the land of Israel, where God will pour out His Spirit upon the Jewish people.
One of the outcomes of COVID-19 is that people are realizing that for the future, Israel is the best place to be.
For 90 years, the Jewish Agency has played a critical role in fostering Jewish immigration. When COVID-19 subsides, it expects a massive increase.
We anticipate that in the next 5 years, there is a potential of 250,000 Olim that will come to Israel, and we need to work together with the government of Israel in order to build a special plan that will help them to make Aliyah.
Nefesh B'Nefesh works with the Jewish Agency to keep the immigration pipeline moving from North America to Israel. In June 2019, they had just over 5,000 calls for information. In June 2020, they had more than 25,000 calls.
He showed me greater shakings coming on the United States, and he said that the Jewish people needed to be warned because their destiny was ultimately in Israel.
Tom Hess says he wrote Let My People Go in 1987 after God warned him that one day the Jews in the U.S. would be safer in Israel. He just finished the 10th edition.
The 15th chapter has to do with what happened in just this year, 2020, with all the things that happened with the epidemic and anti-Semitism and things that are happening in New York and all over the U.S. For the first time, probably since Israel was reborn, many Jews in the United States think that it's better to live in Israel than it is in the U.S. They used to think they can live there and they can bless Israel from afar. But now they believe that it's time to come back to Israel, because I think they see the ominous things that are happening.
That now includes the frightening growth of anti-Semitism.
Just seems this ancient hatred and animosity towards the Jews just doesn't want to die. And Jews are being blamed for COVID-19. It's totally absurd and outrageous. But if you're Jewish living out there among the Gentile nations and you're still getting falsely blamed for these things, no wonder many of them want to come home to safety in Israel.
Parsons sees Israel approaching a milestone nearly 3,000 years in the making.
The Jews have actually been in exile since the Babylonian times. Even in the days of Jesus, more than half the Jews were still living abroad. This corona crisis could be the thing that pushes Israel over that threshold that more than half the Jews in the world are finally living back in the land. And this would be the first time since even the Babylonian exile 2,700 years ago that we could say the exile is officially, formally, finally over. Whether it took a COVID crisis to do this or whatever, there's something about this moment we do feel is prophetic.
Hess calls it a time to pray.
I think that Christians should pray that God will open the gates of their cities, open the gates of their nations, that the Jewish people will be able to come back to Israel. May they come back sooner than later, because this is the year of Aliyah. This, I believe, is the appointed time for the Jews to come back from the West, back to their homeland, Israel.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.